This week on Jamaica House Weekly, Prime Minister visits families of 4 killed in Clarendon, a pledge to add to the Patterson legacy.
It gives me great pleasure to declare Highway 2000 East-West as a PJ Patterson Highway.
And more state entities urged to implement sexual harassment and disability policies.
We need to do better in Jamaica. And not for everything we fight, we quarrel, and we murder.
Prime Minister Portia Simpson-Miller's plea for peace as she condemned last Wednesday's quadruple killing at the Money Mosque housing scheme in Hayes, Clarendon. As she visited the families of those killed on Saturday, Mrs. Simpson-Miller called on Jamaicans to unite in keeping with the nation's motto.
Well, if we're one people, we shouldn't be killing each other. We shouldn't be fighting and quarreling. We should be trying to lift each other. We should be trying to help each other, not to murder each other.
The Prime Minister was accompanied by government ministers and representatives of the Child Development Agency. 3 teenage boys and a man were shot and killed by 2 men during an alleged robbery on April 15. In an earlier release, Mrs. Simpson-Miller called on the residents of Hayes and its environs to work with the police in bringing the perpetrators of the gruesome killings to justice. She also expressed confidence in the ability of the police to investigate and apprehend those responsible. And right before the trip to Clarendon on Saturday, the Prime Minister called for a united front in the fight against social degradation.
We have to go back to that kinder, gentler Jamaica and a gentler society. We have to go back to being a people of strong values, of service. And we'll pay attention and unite in our communities, and we will bring about peace.
Mrs. Simpson-Miller was speaking at the Jamaica Baptist Women's Federation prayer breakfast on Saturday. The Prime Minister also gave a personal donation in aid of the construction of the Garland Hall flatlets for children. Earlier in the week, Prime Minister Simpson-Miller promised to add to the legacy left by Jamaica's 6th Prime Minister PJ Patterson.
The present administration that I have the honor to lead intends to build on PJ's legacy. This is evident in the steps we have already taken and plan to take, including work done and ongoing on the North-South Highway, privatization and expansion of the airports, privatization and expansion of the Kingston Container Terminal. All of these are laying the foundation for greater levels of economic growth.
The Prime Minister was speaking as she officially renamed the Kingston to Maypen leg of Highway 2000 the PJ Patterson Highway. Mrs. Simpson-Miller said the renaming, which coincided with former Prime Minister Patterson's 80th birthday on April 10, was a fitting tribute to the man who spearheaded the highway's development. Mrs. Simpson-Miller added that the former Prime Minister's visionary leadership would take pride of place in Jamaica's history books. Following the renaming ceremony, Mrs. Simpson-Miller joined opposition members, members of Parliament past and present, as well as current and former ministers at an 80th birthday reception for the former Prime Minister.
We're here to celebrate PJ Patterson, an outstanding leader, and one at whose feet I sat and I learned.
And the Prime Minister met with members of the Partnership for Transformation this past week. The grouping was joined by Noel Arscott, Minister of Local Government and Community Development. In the meantime, the Prime Minister assigned the State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to represent her at the opening of the 3rd CARIFORUM EU Business Conference. It was held in St. James on April 15. Through Sharon Folks Abrams, Mrs. Simpson-Miller urged countries within the region to make greater use of the opportunities for export to the European Union.
It is my hope that this business forum will be a positive turning point for Jamaican and regional trade with the European Union. We must seek to fulfill the productive promise of EPA, thereby resulting in profitable win-win business outcomes at the firm level that will redound to the benefit of the peoples of the Caribbean and EU member states.
The two-day conference was held under the theme, Making Connections, Building Business, Increasing Trade and Investment. And the minister responsible for Information and Women's Affairs, Senator Sandra Faulkner, was also in the second city this past week. On Monday, Senator Faulkner attended day one of the 5-day Women in Maritime Association conference, where she called on the shipping industry to be more inclusive.
We can achieve regionally and advance globally. But first, we must consolidate our achievements and build momentum within our maritime sector in the Caribbean. This sector can be a powerful example of what we can achieve when we effectively utilize the skills, knowledge, and talent of both men and women.
The function also served as the launch of the Caribbean arm of the Women in Maritime Affairs WIMA through the Maritime Association of Jamaica.
The WIMA for the Caribbean will serve as an important vehicle to unite women in the sector as a force to promote change and facilitate development.
At another function, Senator Faulkner urged more state entities to implement sexual harassment and disability policies. According to the minister, these policies would create a work environment free of unwelcomed sexual advances and discrimination. Senator Faulkner added that government was already putting in the necessary policies and programs to eliminate such abuses.
The sexual harassment policy will facilitate transparency in the handling of all procedures relating to sexual harassment on the job.
Minister Faulkner was addressing the official launch of the Urban Development Corporation's sexual harassment and disability policies. And Natalie Nita Headley, the minister responsible for sport, launched the 2015 staging of the Jamaica International Invitational Track Meet on Tuesday.
I want to encourage all Jamaicans, come out. Let this stadium be sell out and sell off. Let's fill the stadium and ensure that we cheer on our athletes and participate in what we will now consider to be our little world championships right here in Jamaica.
Now in its 12th year, the Jamaica Invitational will be held on May 9 at the National Stadium. And that's it for this week's Jamaica House Weekly. Join us next time for the latest stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.